This is your video for Stretching and Shrinking Investigation 3.3. Our learning target for this section is to use our knowledge of proportional sides, which needs to be true when you have similar figures, and expand on that to solve for missing side lengths when we know that two figures are similar. But in order to do this, we're going to do a quick review as well from our Shapes and Designs book as far as shapes and their total degrees. A triangle with 3 sides adds up to be a total of, whoa, I need to go back to my ink pen, of 180 degrees. A quadrilateral is a 4-sided shape with 4 angles and adds up to be a total of 360 degrees. A hexagon is a 6-sided shape with 6 angles and adds up to be a total of 720 degrees. And in order to determine how many degrees are in a shape, we would do n, which is the number of sides, subtract 2 from that, and multiply by 180. And in this section, you will be asked to determine degrees of angles, and you may have to rely on that simple formula in order to determine what is missing. So let's move on to finding missing angles and sides. My copy does not have the same information that yours does, so I need to fill this in. We know that our first rectangle ABCD has a length of, not meters, 3 centimeters, and we are trying to find the missing value. And our larger rectangle has a side of 9 centimeters and 6.75 centimeters. And in order to do this, we need to set up our proportion. And the biggest thing to remember, once again, is the shape A and the B, or the 1 and the 2, and to make sure that we have corresponding sides that are matching up. So a proportion is looking at basically 2 fractions or 2 ratios that are equal, and we're going to do this just like if we were solving for scale factor. So I have side 9 centimeters right here, and that's going to go on the top because this is like having shape B or shape 2, and that's going to correspond actually with our unknown side. So in my proportion, then this would be my question mark. Shape B is on the top, so my second side for shape B, the 6.75, that's what would correspond to my 3. So shape 2 goes on top, 6.75, and I have a length of 3 on the bottom, since it's shape A information on the bottom. So I need these 2 fractions to be equal. To solve a proportion, the easiest way to do this, and a way that works 100% of the time, is to multiply across and divide by the number that is left over. So we would have 9 times 3, which is 27, and we would divide that by 6.75. That means that my question mark is worth 4, and I need to add a label. So my unknown side is 4 centimeters. And that's solving a proportion. Our next example, you have 2 unknown values for sides, and an unknown value for the angle. What you need to remember here is that the notation for which angles are the same. One curved line here matches up with one curved line in that corner. And then where you have angle C, you have two curved lines, so that matches up with two curved lines on your second shape. And then you have 3 in the kind of the upper right, which then would match up with 3 in the upper right of your second shape. All right, let's start with finding the unknown lengths. We need to start by doing a proportion. Let me first fill in my values here. And these are all in centimeters, so I'll make sure to add my label at the end. So to set up a proportion, I'm going to just set up kind of my starting point, and I need to have shape B on the top, shape A on the bottom, shape B, and shape A. All right, and I am going to start by solving for that side length, the question mark that I just boxed. I know that 7.5 corresponds to 6. Then on shape B, I'm trying to find the question mark, and that corresponds to 3. In your proportion, you can only have one unknown value or one question mark, or you won't be able to solve it. So here we multiply the two numbers across from each other, and we divide by the number that is left over. So if I do 7.5 times 3, I get 22.5, and then I need to divide by 6, and my question mark, or my unknown value, is 3.75 centimeters. And for every question mark that you have, you do need to do a separate proportion. You can't somehow try and solve for 2 in one. So my next one would be the question mark that I circled, that longer side, so I once again need to have a separate proportion. B is going to go on the top and A is going to go on the bottom. I can repeat the corresponding sides of 7.5 and 6. I still need to put my question mark on top since that goes to shape B, but now I need to make sure that I use the value of 5 because that is the corresponding side. So to solve my proportion, I multiply across and I will divide by the bottom. So now I have 7.5 times 5, which gives me 37.5. I'm going to divide that by 6, and my unknown value is 6.25 centimeters. So that goes for the longer side. Then you can see I also have a question mark for my unknown angle right here. And since angles in corresponding, or angles in similar figures have to be equal, this angle given to you is 56. This bottom angle here corresponds with that bottom angle in B, which means that it has to be 94 degrees. And the reason that we did that quick review up at the top is because then to solve for the third unknown angle, I have to rely on the fact that I know that a triangle has a total of 180 degrees. I can take away the 56 that I have, and I can take away the 94 that I have, which is going to leave me with 30 degrees. All right, so let's look at our next set of examples with similar figures between the two parallelograms. Here we're relying a little bit more on review of the angle measures. So I'm going to be looking for angle L and M and O. L is given to you by looking at the shape of 112 degrees. And whether relying on what you remember about parallelograms or relying on the notation, opposite angles in parallelograms are the same. So that means N also is equal to 112 degrees. And if you look at the notation too, two curved lines is going to go with two curved lines. That means I need to rely on the knowledge that a four-sided shape, a quadrilateral, is 360 degrees. I need to take away two sets of 112. That leaves me with 136 degrees that needs to be split between O and M. And when I divide that out, O and M are going to be 68 degrees. Because L, M, N, and O is similar to E, F, G, H, these angle measures have to be equal by definition of a similar figure. So angle E would be 112, angle F 68, G 112, and H 68. Then here we do need to solve for side length ON, and because they're similar, we're going to set up our proportion, where we're going to have shape B on top, shape A on bottom. Shape B, I know I have a side length of 3. 3 corresponds on shape A to a side length. Then on shape B, I have 4.5, and that's going to correspond to my unknown length ON. So that's going to get a question mark. I look for what's across from each other, I multiply, and I divide. So I have 2 times 4.5, which gives me 9. I need to divide that by 3. That means that my question mark, or ON, has a value of 3 feet. All right, in our next example, I want to see if you can figure out the 4 missing angle measures that are being asked for, as well as set up and accurately solve for the missing side length using a proportion. So pause the video, and then once you hit play, you will see my work and my responses to see how you did. All right, in this one, hopefully you were able to recall that a four-sided shape has 360 degrees, that the angles across from each other with the notation were equal, so I have 2 angles at 115 degrees. I would subtract that from 360 and then split the difference to get angle W and Y, and those same angle measures related to its similar shape ABCD. In here, you didn't even need to use a proportion, which was nice to solve for the unknown lengths, because of the notation that is on there, that all these dashes represent that the sides are the same. So it wouldn't matter which side I would have asked for, it would have been 12 centimeters. And then the same on your smaller shape with the notation, all of those were exactly the same. So every side length was 6 centimeters. Here, if I were to ask you for scale factor, hopefully you could recognize that it was being cut in half from 12 to 6. So I didn't ask for it, but my scale factor would be 1/2 or 0.5. All right, in our final example of the 2 rectangles, I am asking for side length OP. Here we do not have side lengths that are the same, as shown by the lack of notation. One good thing here, if you did not realize, is that this mark right here stands for inches, so that's a mathematical shorthand. So in your final answer, you could use those 2 dashes or abbreviate inches. I want you to set up a proportion to solve for side length OP, solve for it, and then once you pause the video, and then once you hit play, see how you did. All right, double check your proportion. I put B on top of A again. I multiplied 3 times 2, divided that by 0.75, and got that the length of OP would be 8 inches. So this is, once again, using the knowledge that for 2 shapes to be similar, they have to have proportional sides, so we can set up a proportion with a missing value and solve for it. If you have any questions, make sure you bring those to class with you.